Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back. And we are taking a momentary break to bring you a wrap on something we did 2 months ago. Our unfortunately named cherry bomb ferment actually was suppressed a little bit by YouTube. They didn't like that name, and so we're calling this Last of the Summer Ferment Cherry Cordial. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about the last of our apple cider vinegar that we fermented at the same time. And as you can see in this picture, there is something a little odd floating in the top of the apple cider vinegar. There's really nothing odd about it. It's just a ring-shaped SCOBY that formed in the airspace between the bottom of that little custard dish and where it's sealed off. And I'm convinced, having repeated this SCOBY formation in both kombucha and Jun, that I could take this little SCOBY, I could toss it into some black tea kombucha or some honey-based green tea Jun and make that beverage from this SCOBY if I wanted to. I already have plenty of that, and so this would normally be worm food because I'm done fermenting apple cider vinegar for the season. So let's get to the cherry cordial. You may remember that I put an airlock on mine, and I can promise you, even though bubbles never were observed up in the airlock liquid, which is just plain water, as little as 10 days ago, I could still see bubbles coming up out of that mash whenever it was in the sunshine. So if you missed our September 15th-ish, I think it was, or September 17th show on how to start this, I'm leaving the instructions for a couple minutes on the side, and we're just going to run right through this. As I'm straining this out, I notice that it's very thick, but even on a cloudy day, the light can go through it. As I strain it out, I overestimated a little bit, as I always do. I should have used my larger measuring cup, but I ended up with about 2 cups of liquid, a little bit over maybe 2.5 cups, which is basically what we put in. Certainly the cherries added some juice by volume, but not as much as I expected. And so we'll set this off to the side for a minute and let the rest of it drain. You can see in the bottom of the jar there's not very much cherry must, and I'm going to add a little bit of juice back in because I think I'm going to use that cherry must again, but for what exactly I'm not sure right now. Where most of the cherry must ended up was in the bottom of that China cap strainer, and as we pour it out, you'll see it's relatively clear, but it will clarify even further. As I'll point out in a moment, you'll see that I actually poured the apple cider when I decanted it through that China cap filter, and it tinted just a little bit our remaining apple cider vinegar. And here you can see that it is not clear because it's so dark, even though it is very clear when you pour it, and you can see on the side of the glass that a little bit of that liquid coats the glass. Here we see all of our decants today, and you can see that tinted apple cider vinegar. I pulled out some of our first ferment in the big jar so that you could see just how clear it can get. And here is one of the cherries, kind of wrinkly only because it's been sitting in liquid for 2 months-ish. And let me tell you, that's a boozy cherry. Let's admire our summer ferments in the cloudy window. I'd like you to notice again how clear this vinegar will get when it sits and the sediments settle out. That's the container on the left, and these 4 in the center are the last of our apple cider vinegar. And then of course we got oh, 24, 27 ounces, something like that. The liquid in the glass will be poured into the jar, and that'll probably be used for taste testing and mixing. I'm not still sure whether I'm going to add it to brandy, whiskey, or vodka, but I'm leaning towards vodka because this already has a little bit of bite to it. If the cherries are any indication of what the liqueur is going to taste like. Keeping in mind that what's reserved in the bottle is for helping me choke down elderberry syrup because I just can't stand it, even though it's very good for you. So I'm really pleased, and I have to say to my Brit friends, if they're out there, the temptation to call this the last of the summer wine was almost too much to resist, and so I called it the last of the summer ferments. Finally, persistence paid off, and I was able to capture this in the sunshine as the cloudy day resolved itself. So be kind to your YouTubing friends who on occasion whinge about how long things take and how complicated shooting and editing is. I assure you, it doubles or even triples the time that it takes to shoot a project. We do this because we like what we're doing, we like bringing you good content, so if you enjoy these random projects and project series, by all means leave us a like, comment, and share if you're so inclined. Please don't forget to subscribe if this is really content that you enjoy. We'll be returning to our fancy humidifier, otherwise known as an aquarium, a paludarium, a riparium, a vivarium. You choose the title. In the meantime, I will be taking a well-needed rest, and yes, I'm also buying myself a little time so that I can get a little bit farther ahead on that project. I will see you in December on the first Thursday because I'm taking time off for Thanksgiving, and we'll probably have some of that Cherry Cordial, a well-deserved toast to myself, even though I didn't do anything. It was just fermentation. Take care. I'll see you in December. Nuts. Happens every single time.